Hello, and welcome to the fourth U Dimension podcast. This is our podcast video, part of our Getting the Message series. My name is Skylar Vogel. I'm the senior minister at the Fourth Universalist Society in the city of New York. I am not your regular podcast host, but today I have the pleasure of interviewing her, Ember Kelly, our wonderful director of religious education. The reason why we have switched roles today is that Ember has led us into service this week, a beautiful multi-generational service that involved our youngest members, our children, our teenagers, parents, the RE team that brings us so much wonderful educational programming throughout the year. So Ember, thank you for being here and welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. It's weird to be on the reverse side of this.
It's easier to be on the reverse side. I can verify that. You feel like you just let things come to you rather than have to be thinking about what to say next. One of the things that when we were talking before this, and something that I know well, is you mentioned that you had some dreams coming into this service, and I think it'd be interesting for the folks at home to hear about what it's like to lead a service at Fourth U. This is the first service you've led for us, by yourself with this team, of course. What was that like? What were you feeling last night, and what kind of dreams did you have?
I mean, it fits the theme of dreaming with the new. It's a good first question. So, uh, as I mentioned, in fact, in the message, my background is going through seminary. I've done internships, I've led services, I've delivered sermons, I've put together whole services before, but this one definitely felt, like next level. Like this is my first grand premiere of what my services look like to the Fourth Universalist community. And oh man, was I nervous. I'm feeling very relieved to be on the other side of it now. But last night, as I knew that I had everything done. I had reviewed my video that was prepared. Colin had reviewed my video that was prepared. You and Colin had looked over my message. I knew that the script was together. Everybody knew what they were doing. But still, as I went to bed, I definitely was feeling a little bit nervous. And I fell asleep pretty quickly, but I woke up about 3 different times from 3 different dreams about something going wrong with the service. One, my ring light wasn't working correctly. It kept turning off and I kept having to get up and turn it on. And I can't have bad lighting for the service. Another one, a bunch of the people that were supposed to speak didn't show up when they were supposed to. And then in the last one, I think it was just that nobody showed up to the service and it was only the leaders there watching their own stuff. So yeah, it was definitely apparently a little bit of stress to be back in the driver's seat of leading the service.
Those experiences are not unnormal. I certainly have had them as well. Various dreams about forgetting that I was writing a sermon and being called up to give it without having anything to say, not having the proper robe and stuff, and not being able to find it and showing up in shorts or something absurd like that. Common preacher dreams, and I'm sure that for many of us in various roles and careers, there's an equivalent version of the day before whatever we're doing anxiety dream. So multi-generational services like the one you led on Sunday are different and they're unique in our congregation, and in some ways they're more complicated because you've had to bring in all these different voices. It's different than the normal worship team where you have people who do it every week. You have kids and teens and teachers and parents and everybody else. And multi-gen services are also complicated because sometimes they get typecast as services that aren't for older adults. We say they're multi-generational, but sometimes people perceive them as kids services. Tell me a little bit about your theory of multi-generational services and why you think they're important for religious communities and for the entire age spectrum to appreciate.
Right. No, definitely. There's so many moving parts compared to like a normal Sunday service because following up with about 10 different people to make sure that everybody is where they're supposed to be and knows what they're supposed to do. It definitely was an extra level of stress trying to keep track of so many people and making sure that everybody knew what they were supposed to do. But I think that these services are so important, and like lots of people do like a play or a performance, and that's always fun too. I know I did the Christmas story play growing up a million times. And I always did not enjoy getting to be part of it because I didn't like having to be up in front of everybody. And look at where that got me. So I think that I want to say that I even mentioned it in my interview process, but I think that having well done multi-generational services that really involve the kids and really let them be seen as vital members of the communities helps just make a more full, healthy community when the youth aren't seen as like this other, like, okay, well, we're sending our kids off to class because, you know, we don't want them bothering us while we're in church, sort of thing. But instead seeing them as valuable members of the community that provide insight that we can learn so much from. And I mean, as I put together the service and as I helped with the various parts and got to put together the recording, it was just amazing to see the wisdom and like the beautiful songs and all of it that these kids were bringing together, because there's so much wisdom that they have for us as a wider congregation. And I think it's just so important not to think of them as that's their thing, the RE and that's their Sunday, but rather that kids are always an important part of our community.
I think that's really, really insightful and super important for all of us to remember, because it's so easy to think about the membership of the congregation or the congregation as a whole is really the adults, right? Particularly for us adults who think about what a congregation is, to think about these tiers that really it's a bunch of adults who then bring their kids. But remembering that part of our faith tradition is that, you know, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, our first principle, also applies to ages, right? So our kids are equal individuals in our community, that their experience, a 6-year-old's experience at Fourth U, is equal to an experience of somebody who is 35 or 60 years old, and that no one is more or less part of the Fourth Universalist community, and no one's experience matters, or opinion matters, or wisdom matters more or less. And I think it's really, it's so important to remember that, and to not have our kids simply be entertainment, right, or performative, which I think you have done a great job of doing, right? They weren't just there singing some cute carol and everyone says awe and, you know, how adorable, but you asked them to share things that were meaningful to them, and they shared music and they shared readings and their own little reflections, and that honors them as people who have gifts to offer to all ages.
Right. When I think it's vital for like lifetime faith development. Like if as a kid in a religious community you're just treated like, oh, you know, you're go over there, do your thing, then you're not going to be interested in following along with that as you get older. Even as a kid who felt this pull towards doing ministry, I still, like, it was so hard to like feel taken seriously as a youth, and I think it's just really important to do that recognizing of their voices so that they feel interested in continuing their journey as people that engage in religious community, that they continue that as they grow up.
Yeah. So you've mentioned in your reflection that you've been with Fourth Universalist for almost 6 months. I'm curious, because I have you here in the podcast, what has it been like to have started in this role, this ministerial role, with kids and families and teachers and parents, and not have met hardly any of them in person? It must have been incredibly hard, and probably continues to be a challenge. Tell us a little about what that experience has been like for you.
Right. I want to say that I said something at dinner the other day that I was like, well, you know, 6 months in and I've been to the building twice. Um, but you know, the second time I did get to enjoy some delicious Vietnamese food with you, which was a nice perk of making the visit up there. But you know, it's just so strange, like, to think that I'm working at this place that I've only been to twice. That pretty much you and Sheila and Abby one time, like that's about it that I've met in terms of other staff in person. I have Colin as my assistant director, and we've only ever video chatted and emailed and texted. Like that's it. I think that, you know, one of the benefits for me, I was this kid that grew up with the internet, and I was really engaged in it. Like I was building websites in like 5th grade, and you know, getting connected with people. We like started a Dragon Ball Z RPG that we were playing on forums, and you know, like that. It seemed silly at the time, but it turns out that like building community online turned into a valuable skill once we got into 2020. So, you know, I very much, for large parts of my life, I feel like people kind of gave me a hard time about like, why do you have so many online friends that you've never really met? And I always it was like these are very genuine friendships. Like, yeah, they're just like maybe some person I knew from my blog, and but we've been Facebook friends for 15 years, and we catch up with each other and hear about things going on in their lives. And so that really gave me this skill set for moving into this position in this challenging time. But I mean, it's just so weird to like only have email and Zoom. Though, funny enough, in the last few weeks, I've had a few phone calls, and I've actually noticed that as somebody who's generally a millennial who's always averse to phone calls, I'm actually like enjoying phone calls because it means like I don't have a screen I have to look at. I can just like talk, and I can. The other night I was talking to Sean about the music for the service, and I was looking out the window at the moon while I was talking with him, and it was nice to be on the phone for the first time. But I'm definitely ready for getting back in person and getting to finally meet everyone. But it'll feel like starting a new job when I come back in person.
I'm sure that's absolutely true, and it'll be strange even for those of us who have been at Fourth U in person before. And I think it's almost easy to forget what it meant to even the small things. I'm sure for many of our members and friends who are listening, the practice of getting up in the morning and hopping on the train or walking to the church, to being greeted on Sunday and sitting in the pews and getting or the chairs and getting your coffee hour and all those things, they seem really far away in our in my memory at least, and it'll be an adjustment back. And to know that there will be different characters, right? Because we went when we started this pandemic adventure, there was another director of religious education, and he was here, and now you're here, and a lot of members have left and moved, and it's going to be a really different kind of experience. So we're all going to be, in some ways, it'll be a change for so many of us that um, that you may have a whole cast of characters who I know have been showing up on Zoom that none of us know in person. So we'll all be in some degree of that's a beginner's mind, as the Buddhist tradition calls it.
Right. Well, and depending on mask regulations, when that time comes, we might still not even fully see their faces, even as we finally get to meet them. So we have to match them from their eyes, even though we've only ever met them online.
Yeah, no, it's real. It's real. So I have one final question for you, which is I'm sure that a lot of our families who are listening are coming up with their holiday plans, and I'd love to hear a little bit from you. But you have two boys. You have a family there. I see your Christmas tree in the background. What are your pandemic Christmas plans?
Yeah. So I mean, this is where spending the last well, the two Christmases ago was coming back from China, but we had celebrated it largely there before we left, and then last year was in Vietnam, and so having that really helped like ground us to realizing like what was important for us in terms of holiday celebrations, and food is definitely one of those things that's important to us. We managed while we were abroad to still put together some. We made some stuffing and we had mashed potatoes, and we bought something that was labeled turkey that was definitely not turkey. So this year, we're excited that like the boys have requested a ham instead of a turkey this time. And so we're gonna get like a nice big ham and make lots of different dishes. We've been on a challenge to get the kids eating a little bit more. And so the holidays provide some more interesting times to do that. And so we have presents, or as my oldest Jude has taken to referring to them as trash bags. We need to wrap the trash bags, or oh, we got some more trash bags in the mail today. So we're really excited. Like I feel like a lot of family and friends have really gone out of their way to make us feel like that they care about us, that they're excited that we're back after we've been gone for so long. Like that they all really wanted to like get the boys something fun. And I think that I'm just really looking forward to Christmas. I'm excited for like the winter solstice service this week and the Christmas Eve service this week, and those will be really nice. But gosh, on Friday when I can just like let the boys wake me up, or probably I'll wake up first because I'm usually the earliest riser of the family. But I'm excited for just a day of relaxation and having fun.
The time between Christmas and New Year's is such a wonderful time of rest and quiet, and I imagine that'll only be more so this year. So, Ember, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for leading us in a wonderful multi-generational service this week. We look forward to seeing you on Christmas Eve at 5 o'clock. I know you have going to share a reading, and I know that you have done a fantastic job in bringing some of our young people along to share readings as well. And we're really grateful to all our listeners each and every week. Join us for our Getting the Message series, where we dive more deeply into our services. So thank you. Have a wonderful holiday, and see you in the new year.